This episode of RSR is brought to you by Isotope, Native Instruments, SAE Institute, Spectra 1964, and Grace Design. These are tools that I use every day in my studio, from the Spectra 1964, STX 600, 100, and 100D, and Native Instruments Complete 26, to Isotope Ozone and RX, and the central hub for my studio, the Grace Design M701 audio interface. Follow the sponsor links in the show notes. Grab my free mixing course at mixmasterbundle.com, and remember to like this video and subscribe on YouTube because it's a great way to help support this show. Now, get ready to rock.
For a long time, I was mixing kind of hybrid, where I would mix in the box, but I would have stereo pairs going out to a console, and then the final summing and two-bus processing was all analog. And I remember there was a time when I couldn't get into the studio that I did that in because I wasn't doing that in my own room. And so I did this mix in the box, and I thought, I'm going to get it. I'm just going to do it. And then before we go to master, I'll pull it back up and do it the regular way. And I did that, and I couldn't beat my in the box mix.
Oh, interesting.
And at that moment, I thought, well, there's no reason to go out of the box anymore. If I can't beat it, I'm just going to lean into it.
Welcome to Recording Studio Rockstars. I'm Lid Shaw, and this is the podcast created to help you become a rock star of the recording studio. Dreaming of a career in audio or the entertainment business? SAE Institute Nashville, in the heart of Music Row, offers hands-on programs where you'll learn on professional-grade gear with industry pros, learning through real projects, not just lectures. Explore studio production, live sound, audio for film, and a whole lot more. Or take the entertainment business program to learn about contracts, promotion, and more. With diploma, associate, and bachelor's programs, there's a path for you. Book a tour today at nashville.sae.edu or call 615-244-5848. Howdy, rock stars. It's your host, Lid Shaw, and welcome back to Recording Studio Rockstars, bringing you into the studio to learn from recording professionals so that you can make your best record ever and be a rock star of the studio yourself. My guest today is Jason Lehning, an accomplished musician, producer, and a Grammy-winning audio engineer based in Nashville, Tennessee. He's son of celebrated producer Kyle Lenning, who shaped Randy Travis's career. And Jason grew up in studios, falling in love with recording early on. Even in his first bands, writing songs was just a way to hit record in the studio, in his own words. He's worked with an impressive array of artists, including Miranda Lambert, Erasure, Alison Krauss, Bill Frisell, and the Silver Seas, his own band. His discography boasts over 10 million in sales, several number ones, and 2 Grammy wins from 5 nominations. Jason's been on the show before in episode 74 and also featured his brother in episode 104 and his dad in episode 94. So please check that out if you'd like to hear more from the only triple generation family that I've had on the show yet. But please welcome back Jason Lehning to Recording Studio Rockstars. Jason, are you ready to rock, dude?
Let's rock.
Glad to have you here, man. It's a pleasure. Did we only do one or did we do a couple? We might have done a couple already, and I needed to list another one in there. But
no, I think just one.
Okay, maybe. Yeah. Well, we're way overdue.
Yeah,
because I remember to go visit. I brought my whole rig over, and we did it at your studio.
That's right,
over in Germantown.
Yeah, which I think I had just kind of moved into at that point. So that's been 10 years, maybe.
Yeah, you did. You guys did such a cool thing. So your wife set up. It was like 2 houses that were connected, like an H or something.
Yeah, it's like 2 little shotgun houses, and somebody built a foyer between them. I mean, there's only maybe 8 feet of space between these 2 houses, and at some point, they were built in 1870, and somebody combined it into one lot and built the foyer, so it's just one house now. And except it's not very housey because it's really 2 houses separate. Right. So it's kind of a his and hers
Yeah, it's kind of like the X-Wing, the Star Wars X-Wing of houses just before you open the wings up, I'm saying that backwards. I think those actually have a long, skinny nose in the middle and two wings.
It's the Y wing. No, there's another, but there is another Star Wars thing.
Yeah. It's like a catamaran of houses. And then the cool thing was like she set up her art studio in one of those houses, and then you set up your recording studio in the other.
Yeah.
And then you guys like meet in the little foyer for lunch?
Yeah. That's our little hangout spot.
That's a cool idea, man. So now are you in the same spot with your studio now, or have you moved around?
Nope. Still there. It's evolved a little, but mostly it's so I've just got it set up to mix and do overdubs in. I'm not trying to track anything there, and it's a great overdub space and a mix space. There's a little kitchen, and it's totally comfortable, and it's 6 blocks from my house. So
that's right. Oh yeah, right. Because you guys found a place that was kind of in one of those remodeled industrial
it was an old
spaces
factory that got turned
apartments, lofts. Very modern living.
Yeah. So it's great. It's like I rarely have to leave the neighborhood, which is awesome.
Yeah. So you just walk over. That's pretty cool.
Most of the time, yeah.
I find myself over there quite a lot, actually, because I've got a favorite place that makes acai bowls.
Oh, is it E-Rose?
Yeah, I go to E-Rose. Yeah. And so I'm like constantly driving right past your place.
Where do you park?
Parking lot. There's a parking garage, and it's a free hour of parking over there. So that's what I've finally figured that out one day. Although I have made the mistake of showing up 1 minute late, and then you're kind of garumphing as I have to pay $6 onto my lunch bill. But that area that you're in has developed a lot. I mean, even to that point, what thoughts are worth sharing with the rock stars about the idea of like when we start out in recording and we're looking for a home for our studio? Mm-hmm. I'd say we often need a lot of space, and we often have a very tiny budget to start with.
Yeah.
But, so some of our first possible offerings, if we're even thinking about home ownership, but even rentals, even to lease a space, is to choose a part of the city or neighborhood or town that is like a little bit of the less wanted, It's not the hot, desirable spot just yet.
Yeah, and I think that if you don't have, my studio is a perfect example of a space that at the time that we bought it, it was the only habitable building on the entire block.
Right.
There was like a machine shop next door, a couple of vacant houses that were totally derelict next to it, and then across the street had been bulldozed for a future development, but that hadn't really happened yet. So it was really, we got lucky, and it was a weird. The layout of the house was not attractive to a home buyer, so it was.
Yeah,
and it's in a historic overlay, so a developer couldn't just bulldoze it and build something new.
Right. So therefore,
it just kept it cheap, basically. And it worked for us. And, being able to buy a place made a difference, because that's, rather than throwing rent at it, you're building the equity. And so it seemed like it was if the timing works out right, I will basically have had a studio for free. If 20 years down the road we sell it, and that equity
because the profit is like the original expense or something. Yeah. Yeah, very interesting way to think about it. Great way to think about it, especially if we get into making music and we know that we're going to be doing this for the next 20 years, no matter what. I think another thing that's worth reminding ourselves of is if we're thinking about leasing a commercial space, like how many people do we know that still have a leased commercial space after 20 years, as opposed to having bought and owned
something? Not many. I can't think of anybody that's renting a studio for that long.
Yeah, so it's just that good reminder, because like when we think leasing a space, and that might be a great option for some of us, but thinking about that and then thinking about, I can afford to lease a space in an area that's not all that popular yet, you end up contributing to making the area popular, because you bring the artists and all the musicians and the cool people to that neighborhood. And then after 10, 20 years, the rent goes up. And all of a sudden, you may not
You're
be
priced
in the
out
same,
of the, yeah.
Yeah, you might be priced out.
Yeah.
So another good reason to consider buying something if you can.
Yeah. And, the studio in a house concept is, especially thanks to you now, is a manageable goal.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah. So just Rockstar's a reminder for those who are wondering what that's all about. I recently actually, I don't know if I told you this too, but I recently actually just won the lawsuit as well against the city of Nashville to defend my right as a homeowner to be able to work from my home studio professionally and have a customer come over and record them in my studio.
That was only recently?
That was only recently, yes. So to rewind quickly, in 2020, I got behind a legislative change, and we changed the law to make it legal for everybody to get permits and everything. But the process, but they still put limitations on things, and they also said like, if we don't like this law, we could just expire it in 3 years, and we'll put like a bunch of limitations on it. And so I was just like, well, we didn't get everything we want, so I'm just going to keep the lawsuit going. And we made it all the way up to the Tennessee Supreme Court.
Wow, I didn't hear about
and then back down again, and then back up to the appellate court. It's sort of funny. It's one of those things like where by the time we win, it's like we're kind of quiet.
Right, you're so tired. Yeah.
But it's been 10 years, so we just won that, and the city had their chance to appeal our win, and they didn't. So it's now like
congratulations,
officially
That's
won
amazing.
And set a precedent for everybody else.
Yeah.
Like, not only should you be able to work from your home in Nashville and make music and make records out of home studios, there's a precedence for it now too.
Yeah, that's great.
Been proven in court.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. It's for all of us. So anyway, yeah. So now what about you and like the way that you feel like your workspace or work method has changed in, I guess, just almost 10 years since we did an interview?
Yeah. COVID really, I think, pushed through methods that were already available that people weren't using as much. Like being able to close a mix on Zoom and audio movers. And that has made working with people who aren't in Nashville a lot easier and a lot more, friendly.
Yeah.
So I think that's changed some. In terms of process, I'm still doing some of the techniques that I've been doing for 15 years. Once I really moved to like in the box mixing, which was probably, 12, 13 years ago.
Although I remember you were like one of the early adopters too, because I remember you were mixing on a Sony Oxford.
I had that
way back in the late 90s.
Yeah. And, but that was still a console, and that was a good desk.
Yeah,
it actually sounded cool.
Right, so it's technically not in the box. Well, it's in a big box on 4 legs.
Yeah, it's its own box. Yeah. There was a moment when, for a long time, I was mixing kind of hybrid, where I would mix in the box, but I would have stereo pairs going out to a console, and then the final summing and 2-bus processing was all analog. And I remember there was a time when I couldn't get into the studio that I did that in because I wasn't doing that in my own room. And so I did this mix in the box, and I thought, I'm going to get it. I'm just going to do it. And then before we go to master, I'll pull it back up and do it the regular way. And I did that, and I couldn't beat my in the box mix.
Oh, interesting.
And at that moment, I thought, well, there's no reason to go out of the box anymore if I can't beat it.
I like that. I like that you arrived at that empirically, as opposed to like, I heard so and so say that it's okay to mix in the box now. Now, Rockstars, for you, it's okay for you to hear us say it, so it's okay to mix in the box now and do it. But I mean, that's just what everybody does now. It barely comes up.
Yeah, and it was funny how technology and art kind of hang out together,
right.
and influence each other. But once that became more popular, all of a sudden people were like, well, I want 8 different versions then, because it's so easy to recall. And
right.
So
it's so easy for you to recall stuff for me.
Things that would have taken a day, take 5 minutes now. And so
do you mess around with like Bounce Factory and tools like that?
Yeah, I do.
Have you gotten into SoundFlow or any of the controllers?
I haven't messed with it beyond, just once I learned about Bounce Factory, that was a no-brainer.
Right.
And so I only fool around with it in as much as I need to use it.
Yeah.
And,
there was a podcast I used to listen to a long time ago, which was more on the business space, but they called it just-in-time learning, which I thought was a great idea. It's like new tools, new things come along. Don't chase them down, but like the moment you need that one feature, just go get it, learn the one feature, and like it's okay if we use stuff in its limited capacity.
Oh,
at
yeah.
times, you know?
Yeah, especially with things like plugins. I mean, there's some really powerful plugins that I'm never going to go deep on, but it does one thing that sounds great, and so I'll just get it for that one thing.
Well, plugins, yeah, but also like, you're a keyboard guy, synthesizers, digital synths and stuff like that. It's like that stuff goes super deep.
Oh, yeah, and I can't even, I can get around on a Juno 60, but past that, it's no.
Yeah.
And I have friends who are like, Daniel Tashin is like really into modular synths. And
is he?
Yeah.
Now?
And he's getting good at it, and he's fearless with it. And I have this thing in my brain, I guess it's like the engineering background, where for me to want to use something, I need to understand how it works. And or I'm just like, I'm not going to use it. And so I would love people who are like Daniel, who are kind of fearless about stuff and will just dive in without knowing. And
yeah, I agree with you, man. I love. I think we're similar in that way. Like you said, as the engineer in me wanted to understand it all, but I loved it when the rule breakers came into the studio. Yeah, because all of a sudden it like expands my knowledge
totally
on those sessions. I'd like pick up some new idea. We talked about it on the last episode, but when we were doing the Silver Seas record, I remembered that at one point we clipped contact mics onto the piano. We had it mic'd up, but we also had contact mics clipped on, or a mic in it or something that was then going to a guitar amp that was super reverbed out with effects on it in the other room.
Yeah.
And it's like, that was an idea that you suggested, or maybe Daniel did even. I don't
remember where it came from.
But like those ideas stick with you. After you do it once in the studio, you remember. Like it's somewhere in your head, you're like, oh yeah, that's right. That combo will get me that kind of sound.
Yeah. Yeah, I get so much out of what I love about how low the barrier to entry is that people who aren't what I would call classically educated engineers are getting their hands dirty and, fooling around with sounds, and they'll stumble on something that is totally technically wrong and sounds great. And so as a mixer, when I get that kind of content to work with, it's that I always learn so much from the producers and writers that I'm working for. They're sending me stuff that, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know why it sounds good, but it's awesome. And that's fun.
Does your brother Jordan, does he come from that world of thinking as a songwriter? I remember him being really sort of experimental with 4-tracks and unafraid with some sounds and stuff like that. Is that a little bit of where he comes from?
That's some of his background, but I would say the last 15 years, he's put most of his energy into becoming a really good arranger and orchestrator. And I think when he's thinking about sounds, he's thinking about them mostly like an arranger or an orchestrator, and most of the stuff he's done the last several years, as far as my exposure to it, looks like, let's play this instrument, the right note, the right time, and he's not thinking about pushing sounds.
Yeah, I'm looking for Marigold. That's one of the tracks in your playlist.
Yeah, I mean, there's
that just leaps out of the speakers, man. You guys, and so how did you work on that one together?
That was, it's a funny story because a few things have come out of that. That's the most recently released record from some work that we did at a studio called Chale, Abbey on the Isle of Wight. In the English Channel.
Wow.
And do you know Spencer Cullum, pedal steel player?
Yeah.
He's went to like high school with the guy that runs Chale Abbey. And Spencer's British.
Tall guy.
Yeah, from London. Lives in Nashville. Yeah. And Dave Granshaw runs Chale Abbey. And Dave was telling Spencer, hey, let's bring some Nashville projects over here. And Spencer told Jordan about it. And so we were we were going to go make an Andrew Combs record over there. And then Andrew's wife got pregnant and the timing wasn't right. And so, but Jordan didn't, I also love this about Jordan. He really, he makes stuff happen. And he said, well, we're not going to cancel the record. We'll just make a Jordan record. And like 2 weeks before we went, he started writing it.
Wow.
And he wrote the whole thing, and it was Dave, the studio manager, actually played drums on it. Eli Beard, Spencer, Jordan, me, I think that might have been it. Went over.
It was the studio manager playing drums on it?
Yeah,
those drums sound great.
He's great. And we went and tracked it in 4 or 5 days, and then came back, and Jordan put strings on it here, but I think he sang it all. Maybe I can't remember where he sang it, but we worked pretty fast and did that. And then we went back a year later and made 2 records. One for Emma Swift, which just came out, and then we stayed an extra week after Emma was done, and we kind of invented a little band called Echolalia. And
Echolalia is another one that really stood out to me.
That was the same room. And mostly the same musicians, except Dom Billett came to play drums, and Juan Solorzano came to play guitar. And Andrew Combs came on that one too. And so
Rainbow Road, that was one
that's one of Andrew's songs.
Groovy, jazzy, kind of mysterious
super
quality
fun.
to it.
So we made, and Jordan's actually at Chale Abbey now, on a writing trip.
Native Instruments now brings you Complete 26 with powerful instruments, synthesizers, and creative tools to help you make music faster and stay inspired. The legendary Absynth 6 is back with evolving textures and experimental sounds, while Contact 8 gives you the tools for chords, phrases, and arrangement right inside your workflow. With Massive X Guitar Rig 7 Pro, session guitarist instruments, and premium tools from Isotope and Brainworks, Complete 26 gives you everything you need to create in any genre. Go to nativeinstruments.com and use the code ROCK10 for 10% off. So you were over there tracking stuff and recording with him, or playing?
I played a little bit
on
it, but I was mostly recording it.
Okay.
Emma's record and his solo record was mostly recording.
And then mixing as well when you got back here?
Yeah, I didn't mix the Emma record, but both Jordan's solo record and the Echolalia record I mixed at my place.
Well, those are 2 that just leapt right out at me. So
thanks. Yeah,
well done, man.
Sound good. Greg Calbi has a lot to do with why those sound good.
Yeah, well, so talk about that. What do we need to be reminded of in the final stage of a record and mastering?
I really like I'm going to make a record sound as good as I can possibly make it sound. And a great mastering engineer will always make it sound better.
Yeah.
And so I think if you're sending something off to mastering and it doesn't sound better, then
you're not done yet.
You're not done.
Yeah.
Or they're not done. But that's what I love about Greg. And there's several mastering engineers that I'm lucky to work with.
Have you had the experience of trying to communicate your way toward a better sounding master with a mastering engineer versus just sending it out and it just comes back sounding like magically better?
Most of the time, that's the latter is what happens.
Yeah.
But sure, yeah, sometimes something gets lost. Sometimes you'll lose the center image a little bit if they're pushing the sides up,
right?
Or if there's a difference to split, I might ask for that. Or if an overall image shifts in a way.
What about a quality? What about an understanding of top end or bottom end or, harshness or anything like that? Do you ever run into that kind of thing? Or is that just...
Not really.
Not since you were a teenager.
Yeah. I remember the very first record I got mastered, I was 21, 22 maybe. And it was like a great mastering engineer. Doug Sachs mastered this record, and I'd spent the day with him working on it, and it sounded great. And I took it back to the studio and listened to it, and I was like, "Oh, this is way too bright," because I was so not used to what a mastering engineer is doing to it that I didn't understand.
So you think you pushed him too far, or do you think
No, he was right, and I and I called him. And he said, "Don't listen to it on studio speakers. Listen to it in the car. Listen to it in your house. Move around. Check it on different systems." And I had to just kind of get used to it being different. And I mean, at that time, my ears weren't developed enough to know
and
the
who
difference.
knows what's our studio speakers back in the day,
Right? Yeah,
our Event 20s or whatever, with the Alesis amp on it.
Yeah, so definitely there was a learning curve for that.
Yeah, our Mackie HD824s. But, actually the funny thing is a lot of those speakers are a lot of fun. It was fun some of the sounds. Yeah, and fun to record with. And I honestly loved every version of the studio we ever had, the all of us, all the home studio versions that I've messed with, all the top studios, all of it.
Yeah.
It's just fun to have each one's got its challenges and it's exciting.
It's great. That's the fun thing about that job is that it's so flexible and and how things can sound so different and still be great sounding to me,
For you, learning more about recording from the, where you started to acquiring knowledge and stuff like that, how do you feel about the importance of mentors and finding people to teach you more or show you the things you didn't know?
Yeah,
and help guide you
I
on
really
your path?
lean into that as much as I can. Especially as a mixer, you get it's lonely work, and and it's not that it used to be a real team effort. You'd have to have the engineer and an assistant, and there would be time, and you'd have to understand how to use the gear, and then everybody would come over to close the mix together. And now it's
you might even have more than just your own hands on the faders and mute buttons.
And so there was a lot of information sharing in that environment, and there isn't as much now. So I think, things like what you're doing are really important, and and having people to ask questions of, and I'm 53 now, and so now I'm in this interesting place where I've got mentors that are younger than me, and that's really fun, because
that are mentoring you.
Yeah, I'm always leaning into second engineers and other engineers that are younger who are so keen, who grew up in the computer version of making records, and there's always some. I mean, assistant engineers are so educated. And they, especially ones who work in big studios, because there's so many different kinds of clients coming through and people with different techniques. And so I'm constantly gleaning info from assistant engineers about how to do things.
Yeah, big time. I can see that. And I remember experiencing that too. It's always great to be able to lean on the assistant, just how can we do this? What sounds good in this studio?
Yeah.
What works? Show me one favorite thing or whatever. But the other thing that I learned a lot from were my interns, because they'd come into the studio sometimes and they'd just be like, I'd watch them do something. I don't even remember what it was. I don't even do it today, but maybe it was in Pro Tools or one of those where they just went zoop, and then they soloed a bunch of tracks or put a bunch of tracks in record. And I was like, wait, how'd you do that? I didn't even know you could do that, Just learning all these little computer quick keys and things, functionalities, or just seeing how people do things differently. I mean, I can tell you more stuff I learned from you right now.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Well, when we were doing Silver Seas and we got to the end of a session and I had a system for backing everything up, and I think I was just still doing the drag and drop, drag over, it'd have a backup disk, and then I just drag the whole folder and drop it on there, and then you have to wait for it to copy, and it would take forever because it recopied everything right on top of it.
Right.
And you were like, well, hold on, let's just go into the audio files folder and just grab the most recent ones
you
from
sort of
today.
think by date? Yeah.
Yeah, and we just grabbed the 10 files that we needed, copied them quickly,
and then
copied
right
one
over the
Pro Tools
file.
session over there. It was boom, done. Let's go. Not going to be late for dinner. And I was like, that's pretty good. It's pretty good.
That's funny because there was around that time that Joe Pisapia and I were working on a Guster record together, and we were doing all the overdubs at his house over on Howard, and that was how we ended every night. The band would leave, and we would pour whiskey, and we would just go sit upstairs at the computer and just back up and have a drink and and kind of wind down the night. And
it's good to wind down. That's the only part I never liked about having to be in sharp brain mode at the end of the session for backup stuff. I always get like really nervous about that.
Yeah.
I had the one experience where we were doing, so that, again, to re-explain it, back in the day, we might have a backup drive and a master drive, and the backup drive was supposed to be offline while we were working, and at the end of the day, you just pull it up, and then you just drag the folder from today. It might be the whole band folder, or it might be just the songs or whatever, and drop it on the backup drive, and it writes over the yesterday's folder with the new one from today.
Right.
And so you're always like updating it over there that way. Now, of course, I think Mac does the merge feature, so it'll actually find what's different in there and,
that's cool.
and merge them, which is quicker. But what happened was when we started the day, I was working with somebody else, and they didn't see that we still had the backup drive mounted, and so they started
working
so
off
they
the backup
opened.
drive.
We worked all day off the backup drive, did all the vocals and everything. And we got to the end of the day, did the copy from the master to the backup, and lost the entire day's worth of work.
Just overwrote it.
And I was like, oh shit. Well, that's one way to learn and not do it again,
man.
you know?
Yeah.
Now it's a lot easier, you know. I use I use a bunch of things. I use Backblaze now. That's super, super handy. And then I finally just turned on Time Machine for Mac and like learned how to trust that. And that's been awesome.
That works well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm using Carbon
snapshots.
Copy Cloner.
That's another great one, yeah.
But what I've started doing is I actually started making Dropbox. My whole master hard drive that I work in lives in Dropbox. So whatever I'm doing is automatically being mirrored in Dropbox.
Yeah.
And then I'll just, at the end of every day, anything that I actually worked on that day, I keep kind of a current projects backup drive. And so I have a hard backup locally of that stuff too.
It's just like just backup. Yeah.
It's just a backup of the albums that are, if I've got 6 records going, this week, those 6 records are on that.
And that's
drive.
where Carbon Copy Cloner comes into effect.
But everything is on Dropbox.
Bringing over the newest stuff.
Yeah. And when my main audio drive gets too full, I just make it online only in Dropbox.
I use one called ChronoSync, which is like Carbon Copy Cloner. And the nice thing about those systems are once you establish, like, here's the master hard drive, here's the backup, or whether it's master folder and backup folder, then you just hit the go button, and it does all the looking at every file and comparing and tells you when you're done.
Yeah, that's what.
Whereas like any of the drag and drop methods or any of those things, it's like you kind of have to hover over the copy thing. And then when it's done copying, you're like, is it really done? The worst is if you ever have to delete something yourself after you do a move, because then you're like, oh my God, did I really back it up before I deleted it? Oh, the challenges of file management. So what else is new in your studio, man? What else is exciting for you these days?
Probably the most exciting thing in my studio is a pair of ATC 25s. I had been on 20s for maybe 15 years, and they were great, but I was having some. Once I moved into my studio, I was never really happy with the low end.
Are the 25s the really huge ones? Or
No,
those
they're
50s?
The ones that are about like that, maybe. Maybe about like that.
Of course, there is no ATC that's not a big deal when you get it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The 20s are great, but they're very like room dependent. And if the room isn't really dialed, which my room is as good as a 14 by 14 room's going to get.
Right.
And I'm happy with it. Gary Hedden did a beautiful design, and his son built it out, and it's really
that's great.
Works great for me. But when I moved, I borrowed some 25s to see, and it was really kind of a game changer, especially the bottom end, because they're ported and they speak a little bit more.
Yeah.
And the 20s, as much good work as I feel like I did on them, they're not fun. And the 25s are really fun to work on, and they still give you an honest picture.
Yeah, I always enjoyed the sound of the ATCs. They made music feel kind of exciting coming out of them in a like you said, a fun way.
Yeah. They're not too hypey up top, and they're not very scooped at all, so they don't help you too much.
Right.
They really give you an honest picture, and then it's kind of on you to.
That's groovy. And then anything else about setting up a room or speakers that's worth mentioning as far as, what about low end, for example?
Just, I work with it until you get it right. It's, But
what does that mean? Does that mean move speakers around? Does that mean...
Yeah, move speakers or try different speakers or change your
subwoofers?
Room. I don't use a sub. I have one. It's not even plugged in. I've found that it's not... It's not helpful to me. They're fun, but I'm not getting...
It's almost better to get a speaker that's big enough that has its own, reaches down a little lower in the low end.
Yeah.
In one speaker.
And whoever's designing them is doing a good job, because it seems like the low end is smaller and smaller speakers are able to have really good low end. And, and I spend a good deal of time in headphones. Do you? Yeah, I would say the last third of a mix I do entirely in headphones.
I feel like last time we did this, you were using those Sennheiser 900 series, or am I making that up?
No. I had some Grados.
Oh, okay, Grados. Right, yeah.
I like.
That's old school headphones.
Yeah. But man, I've got my Audio-Technica 50, the M50s that are I'm so used to them, and they do a good job of translating what's going on, and I like putting headphones on just because it's a different.
Which part of your mixing process did the headphones get busted up for?
They come out at two places. Like I've actually this is so nerdy. This is so exciting new things about so much of mixing is about trying to do something that's exciting and good. But I don't know, it's kind of like a restaurant. Like once you kind of get the menu figured out, then it's just about knocking out 70 plates of that great dish a night. And so a lot of what's exciting to me lately is more about process and time and just methods to be able to do something exciting quickly and consistently.
Yeah.
And one of the cool things about being in a computer and not on a desk is that I can work on a mix for 30 minutes and put it away and go do something else. And so I've found myself kind of breaking down the mix process into stages.
Yeah.
And everybody will have their own version of that. But
I remember Andrew Sheps talking about that on his interview way back when too. Just like
cool, yeah,
being able to work on all 12 songs at once.
Yeah, and it keeps me fresh. It's a way to not get kind of dug in on something. And
the new iZotope RX12 is here, bringing powerful new AI tools to help you repair and improve your audio faster than ever. RX12 introduces scene rebalance for separating dialogue, music, and sound effects, plus Stems View for visually editing stems inside your session. You can clean up noisy recordings, remove bleed, rebalance mixes, and automatically trim silence from long audio files in seconds. Whether you're producing music, editing podcasts, or working in post-production, RX12 helps you fix the unfixable fast. Go to iZotope.com and use the code ROCK10 for 10% off. You're always getting the opportunity when you do that to update mixes, adjust mixes. I don't want to use the word tweak really, but adjust mixes, and then pretty quickly hear them up and see them up in the light against the other mixes that you've done too, right? And that's always, I find that super ear opening.
Yeah. Yeah. And you hearing them all back to back. And so back to headphones, I'll kind of do a stage of just get sounds, have fun, make any kind of cool effects or goofing around I want to do. And that's kind of combined with problem solving. If there's a sound that's not working, how am I going to change that to make it fit the mix if it's got too much low end or not enough or whatever? And then I might put that song away and go get sounds on the next song. And then there's kind of a stage of balancing where the vocal is always the first thing I work on. And 90% of the mix, even if I'm soloing something, the vocal stays on too. So everything's relative to that.
Interesting. Yeah.
So then I'll go through and switch. I have a pair of NS10s that I do all my balancing on because I turn them way down and then I turn everything off except the vocal. And then I add in drums and then bass and then rhythm instruments and kind of build the mix around that. Cool. And I'll usually focus on one really loud section of the song, like second chorus, for instance, and just loop that. Because that's, to me, that's going to be where the headroom is tightest.
Yeah.
And then I might go through, and then I might turn on the 2-bus stuff. And I never start a mix with any 2-bus processing on it. It's always off. And then I'll go through 2-bus stuff. And then I'll have like, if I'm just starting a record, sidetracked here, I'll just do one song. I'll start with one big kind of challenging song and build a template out of that so that I'll even send that off to the producer and we'll do a round of changes.
Yeah, get a check on it.
Yeah, and if this is feeling right, then I can take that and turn it into a template and apply those settings to the rest of the record.
Let's describe that for just a sec. So what does that mean to turn that into a template? And what are some general parts of it that are useful and as opposed to other parts that need to be reinvented every time?
Well, the vocal sound, my template is basically when the first song's done, I'll strip out all the automation and take all the audio tracks out of it. And basically that's the template. And then I'll load that template into the next song and just drag instruments down, assuming it's a consistently recorded record, the same drummer and the same studio.
Meaning some of those balance decisions even are relevant, or they're just close?
I start over on balances, but sounds, like the vocal sound, maybe some effects on the vocals would be different, but the EQ and the kind of compressor and the amount of compression, the 2-bus compressor, I try to keep consistent through a whole record. Yeah.
And then do you find that do you bus instruments together like drums would go through a drum bus?
Drums I do, some of it's, like with the drums, that's actually about a sound and a color because I put some things on the drum bus. Yeah. But like guitars and keyboards get separate buses. Sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. I have a little bit of stereo width added on those, but never any EQ or compression. It's more of a organizational thing for me. It's ergonomics more than it is audio.
And you're in Pro Tools.
Yeah.
And do you use things like track folders a lot?
I've started using it. I was running until about a year ago. I was on a 2017 laptop, and I refused to update anything on it because that's kind of my MO is when I get a new computer, everything's new and up to date. Yeah. And as soon as I get it working, I stop. I don't update the software. I don't update Pro Tools.
Right. So you just keep it.
I stay. Once it's working, I just kind of keep my head down and stay there. Unless there's some new feature or some new plugin that's so good, I have to get it. And
let me ask you that question. How do we not upgrade? Because I feel like sometimes the upgrading thing just happens without our consent in the world of computers.
Yeah, I'm starting to run into that, actually. That's kind of new, for me at least, where things are updating without me asking it to. Right.
But you haven't learned any tricks as far as like just make sure everything's just off. If you see an on or off button, just select off.
Just select off. Don't touch it.
Well, the funny thing about that topic is, and I appreciate all different ways of thinking. Like I find myself upgrading more quickly these days, but I'm cautious about certain things. Like in the middle of a project, I'm like, no, I don't want to upgrade Pro Tools or something like that because I don't want to break something or mess it up. But so I think there are people who embrace the newest, being on the cutting edge of things, and then there are people who embrace if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thinking. And what I've learned about the ain't broke, don't fix it is I know a lot of people that are incredibly prolific and productive who come from that world of thinking. Yourself, Brad Jones, I know somebody like that. And it's like, if you've got a system, I think it's an appreciation of understanding that what we bring to the process with our system is actually more valuable than what the upgrade brings to our process as an upgrade.
Oh, that's a really good point.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I totally agree with that. And I think it's just a different, there are some people who are just into the upgrade, the idea of it.
Right.
That, this is a new, what am I going to discover? What I'm going to get out of it? It's like Christmas or something.
Yeah.
Whereas, I'm very much like, I'm not looking that hard. The music, to me, like all the new energy is about the music and the people, not so much about the equipment.
Totally. Upgrade the people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, upgrade the same people, but just upgrade their lunch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Upgrade the batteries in their tuners if you need to.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, and then I feel like with the mentors topic, you kind of mentioned where to find them. What are some other places, like for anybody who's watching this, who's looking for a mentor who maybe knows more than they do? Obviously, the podcast is a great place to find people like that. But do you have other thoughts that you've seen people take advantage of as far as where to find mentorship?
Studios. I think, especially big studios that are busy. That's a great. That's kind of it anymore. I mean, there's a couple of schools teaching what we do.
Yeah,
but not many. And I think studios are a great place for it. And I'm sure there's like good forums online, but I like personal connection. I like sitting next to somebody and doing it. So I think it just comes down to asking for it.
Yeah. Being willing to like reach out and do the connect.
Yeah. And I think anybody who's done this, I mean, I don't know anybody in this business who isn't accessible and approachable.
Yeah.
If you reach out to them and ask, you
got to catch them in the right way sometimes.
Yeah.
People are busy. So people can't always answer our questions right away. I feel like one thing that I see happen sometimes is I see people say, well, I sent an email and never got a reply. And it's like, how many emails did you send?
Just one? Yeah.
So my strategy for not getting stuck in the sent once, didn't get a reply thing is I use that snooze button in Gmail effectively. But before that, I used a plugin called Boomerang that when I send the email, I immediately press to send it back to me in 4 days if no reply or in 1 week or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it's like popping back up on my radar. And then you'd be like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, did you see this email?
Yeah.
That helps. You probably got some of those from me, even just inviting you to come on the podcast.
No, I think it was just one time, I think.
Yeah. But that kind of stuff really helps. And then the snooze button is another
that's cool.
Don't need an additional, oh, great, my phone's ringing. I wonder if that showed up on the video. We'll find out. I thought I put it in don't ring mode. There you go, Rockstar's technology. What was I talking about? The snooze button. I guess the snooze button is, you just say, you send the email and then just say snooze this for a week and then it'll
that's cool.
pop back up.
Tell you again.
Yeah. Stuff like that really helps. I wish there were more things like that in messages or, because we have so many places we message the world now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's probably for each one of us, there's probably 5 different places you might communicate.
Yeah. Like, how did you send me this?
Yeah. So it's a little frustrating if you can't remember where did you start a conversation to finish it? Okay, cool. What about, is music everything for you? Or do you feel like that it's important to cross-pollinate that with hobbies and other interests?
Yeah, I love hobbies. I think they're cool and they're great kind of tools for self-discovery and reinforcing things. Music is everything in terms of my career, and it's I was around music at a young age, and I was in studios at a young age, and I got hooked on that really early, and have thought if that door had not been sitting there swung open for me, what would I have done?
Yeah.
Different, I love to cook, which is a lot like...
Right, I think you mentioned that even the last podcast.
Yeah.
We were talking about what does the studio smell like? And you're like, well, my kitchen's right over there, so it might smell whatever I'm making in the kitchen.
Yeah. And I think cooking is a cool analogy for music. I think there's all kinds of things about flavors.
Yeah.
I think of in terms of frequencies and when I was 19, I got my pilot's license.
Oh, that's right.
And I grew up interested in airplanes and one day just went to an airport, in Springfield, Tennessee, and was just walking around just to look at airplanes. And there was a guy there. I said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm just looking at airplanes." He's like, "You want to fly one?" I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I'm an instructor and my lesson canceled. Let's go." And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And
That's awesome.
I think if I hadn't done that, I don't know if I would have my license, but that was so intoxicating to do. And your first flight lesson, you fly the plane. It's not like, we might have spent 15 minutes talking about some theories and this is what this does, but very quickly you get in the plane and go flying. And
yeah. Am I remembering this right? Isn't Ken Coomer also into flying?
I don't know.
I thought maybe he's also
I just
a pilot.
saw him last week. He might be. Yeah.
He was my 2 pilot friends.
It's good
to know when
cool.
I can't get a ticket to get somewhere.
Yeah. So those are things that I might have done if I hadn't gotten into music. And flying's very, engineering. It's technical. You're always looking at meters and gauges the same way as when you're tracking a record. And cooking is creative. Probably my biggest hobby right now is sailing. I got into sailing when I was a kid.
I love sailing.
My dad had a little Cal 20.
Where in the world do you sail in Nashville?
Well, when I was a kid, we lived in Hendersonville, and there was Old Hickory Lake up there, and he was working at a studio that was on the lake.
That's right.
And they had a dock, and the owner would
That was
let
the
him,
guy with all the jet skis.
Yeah, that guy was Lee Hazen. I loved him. His studio was in the basement of his house, and it was just a total wonderland. The upstairs of the house was player pianos and pinball machines, and
that's cool, man.
Yeah. And the downstairs was a recording studio, and the backyard was full of jet skis and motorboats, and my dad had this sailboat parked there, and so I kind of learned through my dad how to do that, and got away from it for about 15 years when I started college, and about 10 years after that, and then I just got way back into it. And
college for you is Berkeley in Boston, is that right?
That's where I finished. I went to a few different schools, and finished it in Boston. And sailing is cool to me. I guess any hobby for me is like a metaphor for, it affirms my career choices in a way.
Right.
And
you're out on the waves. You're literally riding the waves on the water.
And what I love about sailing is that it's like a creative problem-solving game. And a lot about making records is a creative problem-solving game, especially on the engineering side. And, you're looking for a way to kind of get from point A to point B that's fun and sounds good and takes care of everybody, and sailing has a ton of similarities to that.
Do you sail just here in Nashville, or have you expanded out into sailing in other parts of the country?
Mostly, I have a little sailboat here on Percy Priest Lake, but I've done one offshore passage that was really more of a test drive of it. Is this something I would like to do more of? And I loved it, and so. And there's another one coming up next year that I'm going to do, and then anywhere I'm somewhere that has sailboats for rent on the coast, I'll try to rent one and sail around.
That's cool, man. That's cool.
It's really fun.
You like the little ones, like the I don't even know what the models would be. Lasers,
like a little
and
laser,
sunfishes,
I like them all. Yeah,
kind of
I have a Catalina 25, which is a little bit
more of a day sailor.
Yeah, it's cute. It's got a little cabin. It's like about as small as you can imagine a cruising sailboat being, but it's...
So would a cabin be something you actually sleep in?
Could do, yeah.
So it's almost like a sailing camping trip or something?
Totally, yeah. Cruising sailboats are a lot like RVs, really, how they're set up.
Yeah. And then have you learned anything? I know this isn't really a sailing show, but I love sailing, but I also happen to get seasick maybe pretty easy. So have you ever had to deal with that?
A little bit. I find that the best thing you can do if you're seasick is just get horizontal and wait it out. And if you're on a multi-day offshore trip, you have time for that. If you're just out on the lake. And
then you just get through it. And then you can, once you're through it, you're okay. Get your sea legs, as they say.
Your body will adjust. And there's medicines and stuff for it, but I haven't taken it.
It's funny. The analogy to the studio for me about getting your sea legs is like, I'll go in to do a weekend session with my band, and on the first night, or somewhere in there at the beginning, I might think, oh boy, it's tired. It's getting late. It's getting tired.
Yeah.
And then if I just kind of hang in there, then by the next night I'm back in my sea legs and I'm like, I could stay up all night long.
Yeah.
No problem. Just make music, make sounds, record ideas.
Yeah. It's funny how our energies change based on what the job is too. Like sometimes I'll be working and I might go to the refrigerator 6 times and just open the door and look in there and go, and then go back and do one thing. And, and other times you can sit in front of the speakers for 4 or 5 hours and go really deep and stay engaged. But and just depending on what you're doing, if you're excited about that part of the process. Or
no
not,
doubt, man. Boy, I'll tell you when it's a not fun part of staring at the computer and trying to make a record, my butt really wants to get up out of that chair.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the job.
Which is an important thing to do, I think, right?
Yeah. Yeah, not working is important.
Taking breaks.
Yeah, taking breaks and giving yourself a chance to kind of look at life from another angle, because it's such an easy job to just immerse yourself in, but it also, I think it's easy to get stuck that way.
Totally. Are you ready to launch your career in the audio or entertainment business? SAE Institute Nashville, right here in the heart of Music Row, offers hands-on programs to prepare you for the industry. From studio production and live sound to audio for film and a whole lot more. You'll learn by doing, working with professional-grade gear alongside experienced industry pros. If you're more into the business side of entertainment, SAE's Entertainment Business Program teaches essential basics like contracts and promotion to help you navigate the industry. With diploma, associate, or bachelor's degrees, there's a path for everyone. Plus, Career Services supports graduates as they take the next step. Want to see it for yourself? Immerse yourself in Nashville's exciting music scene and book a tour today at nashville.sae.edu or call 615-244-5848. Howdy, rock stars. We're back now for the jam session, aka the second half of the show. My guest today is Jason Lehning, joining us here at Ready to Rock Studios. Jason, you ready to jam?
Let's do it. Let's jam.
All right, man. Let's jam. Vocals. You're talking about vocals. When you talk about mixing the vocals and really getting that right first, what sorts of moves are we talking about? Are we talking about just choosing a good plug-in chain? Are we talking about clip gaining things and, kind of adjusting and tweaking and really like looking closely at every line and phrase? What thoughts come to mind?
It's mostly my vocal approach is usually, like I said, I'll start with the loudest part of the song. So let's assume that's a chorus and later in the song. Often it's the second chorus. So I'll just loop the second chorus, solo up the vocal. I don't mess with clip gain unless it's real obvious. And sometimes it's just visually, just like try to get the most headroom out of the track as I can to start.
Is it easy for us to do too much to a vocal too?
Yeah, I think so. But that said, if it sounds good, it's good. You know, so I've seen young engineers pull up their sessions and there's tons of stuff on the vocal and it sounds great. Sometimes I'll keep some of those things and sometimes I'll start from scratch. But usually my vocal chain is a kind of a gentle compressor, an EQ. Usually the EQ is before the compressor to start, and it's kind of surgical, managing, filtering out any unnecessary low end. And usually you're looking for kind of there's some sort of frequency that's annoying. I'll find that and take that out if I need to.
Yeah.
And then a little bit of compression. And then I have 2 parallel auxes next to the vocal. One of them, I've been doing this forever. Bomb Factory 1176.
There it is, man. I'm like right there on my thing.
I stumbled on this way to do this when I was a long time ago. I was mixing a Jerry Douglas record that I'd recorded, and I wanted to compress the dobro and get it to speak. And I was mixing, I think we were at the Doghouse. And so I was kind of hybrid mixing in Pro Tools and then summing through the Trident at the Doghouse.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't get the dobro to get gnarly sounding enough. And when I wanted to, anytime I compressed it enough, it would just pinch it, and it was just all transient and small sounding. And so I started playing with setting up a parallel aux where I would send a pre-fader send off of the dobro track to this aux. And I put the Bomb Factory 1176 on that, and I made it all the way attack and release all the way fast and just peg it. And so, but I didn't compress the source track.
Right.
And what it allows you to do is to get all of these natural transients. But anytime there's anything sustaining on the longer notes, the Bomb Factory track just keeps it up there. And it's following all the plugins that are on the source track. So any of my EQ changes are happening there. If there's a soft compressor, that's happening there. So,
meaning there's a pre-fader send, but the pre-fader send is sending the sound after all those inserts happen.
Yeah.
And I don't remember, we don't even have that option in Pro Tools, do we? To do like a pre-insert pre-fader
You'd have
send?
to use another track and
it would be like you'd set up a source plane track. We don't have to go into that, but you'd have to construct
you could do
it
but you'd have to take up an extra track. So that one way of using, and that really worked for me doing it that way. That started a thing for me, and so I started putting that on vocals too. And now I have even a second aux. So there's 3 channels that the vocal lives on.
Yeah.
Where I just use Decapitator. And I hit it pretty hard, but I roll all the top end out of it. So it's just this like kind of distorted, chesty warmth that I can, it doesn't take much of that, but it does a good thing, especially when the singer gets quiet. Mm-hmm. They don't get thin.
Yeah. And
all those plugins are designed to, when the singer's really belting, the Bomb Factory,
they're kind of out of the way.
They're getting out of the way. And it does a neat thing for, I only send my reverbs off the main vocal. So what's cool about that is when the singer is singing loud, the reverbs are getting hit hard, right? Because they're sending. But those parallels are quiet. And when the singer sings quiet, the reverbs are getting less, but the parallels are coming up. So
it feels more intimate, like the vocal's getting
close. Yeah, the vocal
close
will kind of automatically dry itself up in the quieter sections of the song. Cool, and you still have to play with it, but it's a neat byproduct that I wasn't really going for, but is a cool way of, and it's, I don't make it too much of a tightrope because I'm still writing send levels and stuff.
Right. And so you're writing, so what are we writing if we're writing the vocal in the mix? Like a summation of all these things together, or?
Yeah, well, once I have them working in the chorus, I don't change that balance.
Right.
Now, sometimes...
But let's say the vocals are too loud in the verse. What would we reach for to turn down is my question.
Oh, I have them all grouped and turn them all down together.
Okay. So if they were going through a track folder, you could just turn down the track folder and it'd be the group.
Could do. I don't do any... I only do track folders. I treat track folders like aux sums. So like if there's...
You turn down on the track level usually.
A horn section that's taking up 4 tracks, that'll go to a folder. Strings go to folders. Right. And I'm just trying to get a visually easier thing to look at. It's not so much about...
Well, and to your point, the visual thing too, that's an important one. A track folder in Pro Tools, you see an automation line, it's kind of like an aux line, and you see sort of like this representation that there's some kind of sound underneath, but you can't tell what's what.
Yeah, I wish they would give you some sort of waveform to look at.
Yeah. I think I've talked to them about that at one point, and I think that's actually kind of hard to do.
Yeah.
But the on a track itself, on a vocal track, you just see this blob where the word happens, and then you can just see, you can grab automation lines and move them up and down around that pretty easily.
Yeah. So when I balance things, I'll balance a chorus and get all the 2-bus stuff set up and get that chorus sounding good.
Yeah.
And then I'll go back to the top of the song and kind of go section by section, rebalancing stuff in each section to feel right. And if the vocal, let's say my vocal blend that sounds great in the chorus doesn't sound good in the verse, sometimes I'll just duplicate the main vocal track and only use...
And give it its own
thing. And then I'll just send less of it to my parallels if there's too much compression.
It's a good reminder too, with this idea of Rockstars, and when we're mixing. I mean, I know we're getting pretty mix focused here, which is great because we love it. But we think sometimes about needing to take advantage of all the automation stuff to address all these different areas of a song, and it's like, not necessarily. You can just take the wave files from this track in the verse and just move it up to other tracks and do a totally different treatment right there, and then just set that level right for verses and let this one just be chorus sounds, and that kind of frees up a lot of things. I mean, even Steve Marcantoni would talk about doing effects throws to the reverbs and delays. He'd just be like, I just have a track below it, and I just grab a phrase or a part of a syllable, pull it down onto this track. Now it's just showing up, and it's just this momentary send. You don't have to program in enabling, disabling things all the time.
I think that is a old school engineer's headspace, because even when we were mixing on consoles, I would have, because now you can automate a send in Pro Tools, but back in the day, you used to have a mult of the vocal and another fader,
right, and then
take it out of the 2-bus,
would come out,
and then send it to the reverb, and then you can just play with your reverb levels by automating that fader.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I still kind of think that way, and just visually, like, I don't know, I don't like automating everything, so I'll go section by section and make overall changes, but I don't start doing like real hardcore rides until the end of the mix. And I'll just use VCA masters.
Don't you always feel like when we go into hardcore rides, you feel like you're tying yourself down now?
Yeah.
You're committing.
Yeah. And that's where you want to turn one word up. And that's where clip gain comes in really handy.
Yeah.
Sometimes more than pushing a fader.
Although clip gain, so a reminder to us too, clip gain is really handy for taking certain phrases or syllables or parts of words or a whole word and boosting it up or down. But when we do that, we tend to be boosting it up or down into the compressor.
Right, which is a
different sound than adjusting the fader level after all that stuff too. So it's good to remember that and be aware of it. Now, how much do you get to record your own vocals?
Ones I'm mixing?
Yeah, well, like what part? I don't remember how much music you're making now where you're singing on it.
Oh, I don't sing. I mean, a little bit of background vocals on, if it's
and were you, but back when you were in Comma 8, was that one?
I didn't sing on any of those.
Oh, you didn't sing on that stuff? Okay,
no,
great.
I'm a terrible singer.
Oh, okay, so you've always sort of like kept away from the
I'm in the control room because I don't like singing.
Great. Have you seen other singers who are mixing their own vocals share, stuff that works for that process, or any tips or stuff that might help the rock stars who are in that position?
The only person I work with who is in that position much is Luke Dick.
Okay.
And he's got a really interesting approach to how he does it. He lives in headphones when he's producing stuff. And
okay.
And I've been in the room with him when he's doing it, and it's kind of an interesting process because he'll punch a syllable, just one thing, and he's just looking for the thing to go by, and he doesn't. A performance is not necessarily that.
He's trying to make sure that he
just wants it to work.
He thinks he sings is just right.
Yeah, and he does it when he plays guitar too, and he comes up with really cool guitar riffs, and then when it's time for him to execute them, I love his guitar playing, but he would tell you he's not a professional guitar player, so he's got to
relearn it.
And he's never going to play the thing 100 times until he gets it just right. He's gonna if 2 notes are off, he'll just hit those 2 notes.
Right.
And it's so his tracks are a real patchwork of stuff, but it works. And
yeah.
So
I noticed that about myself recording my vocals. It's amazing how fearless I am about just deleting something and redoing it.
Yeah.
But when I'm engineering somebody else's vocals, you get so skittish about that at times. You know,
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God.
Well, because you're trained to, like, you never know when somebody's go, well, that one we did 4 takes ago was pretty good. And,
yeah.
well, that's gone.
But when I'm recording my own stuff, I'll go so quick. Sometimes I wonder if I'm like blowing over really good stuff too, but you just hear it, you know? I learned to, in recording myself, to just hear something just doesn't feel right. I'm just singing it again.
Yeah.
I don't even know what it was. Maybe I'm not even, maybe what I'm feeling is bullshit.
Yeah.
Who knows? But
yeah, this is an interesting part of the job because people's feelings are, at the end of the day, the only thing that matters.
How are you feeling right now, Jason?
I'm feeling a little uptight.
Am I making you feel all right?
But so yeah, we have all these technical conversations and processes, but how people feel about what they're doing is important. I mean, I like a really good example of that is microphones on singers. And I have a couple of really good mics and I have an SM7. And so many times I'll put up a really good mic and sonically it's fantastic, but the singer it's not working for the singer. And then you'll put up the SM7 and all of a sudden this other person shows up.
Yeah.
And you got to go with the SM7 if that's what happens. And not that that's a bad mic, you can totally get there with that. But that's a thing I notice a lot, especially with singers.
Like it's like almost a mental shift, or it's just a sonic shift from the mic to mic?
I think it's how they hear themselves. And I think when I find it, especially with younger singers, when they hear themselves coming back into their ears so clearly, they tend to get a little gun shy and back off. And an SM7, you really have to lean into it to do it, and that encourages a kind of
a bolder
leaning in.
It's an interesting thing. Native Instruments now brings you Complete 26, loaded with creative tools for songwriting, production, mixing, and sound design. The big news is the return of the legendary Absynth 6, with evolving textures, cinematic soundscapes, and experimental sounds designed to spark new ideas fast. Contact 8 continues to be the center of the complete ecosystem, with built-in tools for chords, phrases, grooves, and arrangement to help keep you in the creative flow. With Massive X Guitar Rig 7 Pro, session guitarist instruments, Play Series sounds, and premium tools from Isotope and Brainworks, including Ozone 12 Elements, Complete 26 gives you everything that you need to produce in any genre. Plus, Native Instruments continues expanding NKS integration with complete control keyboards and machine hardware. Go to nativeinstruments.com and use the code ROCK10 for 10% off. I've definitely noticed that in the studio, and I didn't necessarily attribute it to the way they were singing, which is a cool way to think about it. But I noticed that I'd take my really nice mic, like my U67, vintage one, put it on a vocal, and it'd be in a rock track or a thick and a busy track. I guess busy is the right word. Like a lot of harmonic sounds already going on.
Yeah.
And I'd struggle as the engineer to I can't quite, the vocal keeps getting lost in the track.
Uh-huh.
And then I put an SM7 on and all of a sudden it's just like, bloop.
Yeah.
And
it's like a 2-position switch, that microphone.
Yeah, it's weird. And it's like, I wonder if I feel like it sort of flattens the mid-range out front or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if it's all kinds of stuff. It might even be just harmonic distortion. That might add some harmonic qualities to things.
Yeah, or maybe there's
because it's
less
literally it's like a dynamic
top.
Element that's probably can't quite do everything.
Yeah, I mean for the money, there's not a better vocal mic.
Yeah. It's funny. When Bobby Bear Jr. was on here, we were looking. He's like, "Hey, dude, does this look right?" And he shows me, he's like, go to walmart.com. And I was like, why? And he's like, type in SM7B, and I type it in. It's like $150 or something. Like, what?
Wow.
And then we looked at it again later, and it was like, wait, no, I think these are all used. I think it's like a Facebook Marketplace thing on there. But it was interesting to look at. I don't know if it's. I was like, wait a minute.
I mean, it's
normally
popular,
it's a $400 mic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So there you go, Rockstars. There's your possible pro or very amateur tip for the day. One of the two. So the BF 1176, that plugin, that was a thing that you taught me on the last interview. You were talking about how you love that and you would use it for drums and stuff too. And I busted it out again recently. I was in a studio that didn't have plugins. And I was like, well, I'll just use the 1176. Sure enough, man, I was able to dial in all kinds of shit with that.
Yeah, it's a helpful tool for, it just creates sustain in things.
Yeah, and I don't even think I was doing parallel trickery. I was just putting it on stuff.
Yeah.
But, even it's just like, I was able to bring things forward. And, it's just a good reminder to like not get too caught up in the fanciness of things, or things that are, some things that just come with the DAW or are free. We shouldn't automatically devalue them. They're totally useful.
Yeah. That plugin OTT.
Yeah. That's free. Ableton Live, right?
I don't know. So I was just working with somebody a few years ago who just put it on something and it did what it does. And so I started using it, sometimes in a mix.
Are you using it in Pro Tools?
I use it on the 2-bus sometimes.
Oh, interesting. I'll pull it up. I'm pulling it up now for us, Rockstars.
Sometimes with a really dense mix that needs to have a lot of energy.
Oh, by Xfer Records.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're great, man. I was actually doing a Serum deep dive again recently. And that is their synthesizer, which is really cool. Sounding.
I'll check it out. But that thing is just so, it stands for over the top.
Yeah.
And it is. But if I ever find myself in a place where
it's a free plugin, right?
Yeah, it's great. And if you just can't get more juice out of something, that with the mix dialed way, way back, 8 or 9%, it does a thing.
Well, and what it is, I think it's a 3-band compressor limiter. Mm-hmm. So it's like compressing the lows, mids, and highs, which is sort of like taking every element of that sound and just bringing it straight up to the front row seats.
Yeah.
I must be in the front row.
It's fun, yeah.
And then that can be a good way to just get a sound for it. Because a lot of times when we're just sort of struggling with sounds in a mix, especially in the beginning stages of doing this stuff, we're just trying to make it sound like it's up here, not way back here. You know what I mean? And so like stuff like that really just helps bring it forward.
Yeah. And I stand by the, if the vocal is always your priority.
Yeah.
That's a good place to start.
Now you were also talking about the first stage of mixing was like the fixing things stage. Is that like addressing each element? Is that the one where you're like, the vocals are not the key element yet, but I do need to make sure these drums sound kind of huge if you turn it up kind of thing?
Yeah. Yeah. Drums are, I think, the hardest thing because a drum kit doesn't sound like what everybody expects drums to sound like. And so that's the most manipulated thing that, in whatever Western music 3-minute song construct we're working in, drums get banged, they get really pushed around a lot. And so getting those to punch and speak and getting frequencies out of the way of each other. Phase is a huge thing that you're constantly running into. If you keep turning the snare drum up and it keeps getting quieter,
right,
it's out of phase.
It's out of phase. Yeah, you got a phase problem.
So that first stage of a mix is all those kinds of things.
You're in a phase of not knowing what you're doing.
Yeah. And it's fun. And I'm the last couple of years I spent a lot of time fooling around with low end.
Yeah.
And trying to make that bigger and more exciting and
Well, I feel like on Jordan's record you really nailed that too.
That's starting to get I was getting some things there and I'm still figuring it out and playing with new ideas to try to get it there. But so much of what I've found that makes for good bass is all the places bass isn't happening. And so on pretty much every time when I pull up, like the Fab Filter EQ is my kind of starting EQ on most instruments. And my default on that has a low cut on it.
What kind of low cut?
Pretty steep. And I mean, I'll move it around based on what the
12 or 24?
36.
36.
Yeah. dB per octave.
Yeah,
it's pretty steep. And it's just because as soon as, a speaker is like a drum.
Yeah.
And, a 26-inch drum takes a lot of force to make it move. And an 18-inch drum doesn't take much. And so it's the other way around. Like if you want a lot of low end, pushing a big speaker is going to take a lot of air. And if you've got a kick drum, or if you've got two things trying to make low end happen and they're not totally locked in phase, they're going to fight with each other.
Right. Even if it's a tiny bit here and a tiny bit there and a tiny bit there.
Yeah. And so if it's not a instrument that really needs to be throwing off a lot of low end, I just get rid of it.
Let's break this down for the rock stars a little bit, just in case anybody's sort of absorbing this idea for the first time. And I always feel like it's a great reminder. We've been making records forever, and I never get old. It never gets old to talk about it because it's like a constant discovery, right?
Yeah.
But like what we're describing, or what you're describing, is a way to think about it is the speaker's trying to move forward in a moment.
Yeah.
And if some other sound also shares low-end content, it's possible that in that moment, that sound might be trying to go the other way with its low end, even just a little bit.
Yeah.
Now the speaker can only do one thing at one time.
Or even the same sound. Like so many times I will boost low end on a kick drum, and the low end that's happening around 100 hertz or even down to 50 hertz is doing one thing, but the low end that's down around 30 hertz is doing another thing. And if you take that out and put a cut around 50, it'll sound like you've added low end.
Because it's
because you're not asking it to try to replicate 30, which nobody's gonna listen to that anyway. And it's like, and now it's just doing this. It has one job now, and nobody else is trying to make that speaker move down that low. And then all of a sudden it becomes really efficient, and you can pump it up. And
now, do you want anything moving down at 30? Do you think the bass?
I have. Sometimes there's things that, it's usually not a kick drum. It's usually a sub bass, or if there's some keyboard that might be doing something important. Sometimes.
And even then, it might be moving the other direction.
Yeah. And I've gotten into some things with sidechained EQs and compressors, because I also want the bass to be able to speak really loudly when it's time for it to do that.
Yeah.
And I've gotten into a thing recently where I can use soothe on the bass to be keyed from the kick drum, but soothe just ducks the low end of the bass. So whenever the kick drum hits, the bottom end of the bass goes out, and it happens really fast. Sometimes you could solo the bass and not even really.
It's not meant to be a thing you hear.
No, but it lets you turn, you can get another dB or so out of the bass guitar, and without it kind of sucking energy out of the kick drum.
Right, because what it's doing is it's saying when the kick happens, that low frequency area of the bass
just belongs to the kick.
Getting turned down just for a moment so that you didn't even notice that it was going. It's like a trick of the ear, right?
Yeah.
That's the part that stresses us out when we're learning how to mix, right? It's like, we're like, what are the tricks of the ear that I don't even know I'm not hearing because they're working so well? Yeah. You just hear the accumulation of everything sounding great.
Yeah. And those are, you try, that's not something that just was a switch that turned on for me one day. It was, you got to
accumulate a lot of tricks and knowledge and
you play
things
with it, and you try an idea, and if it doesn't work, you don't do it again. If it does, then you kind of save it for the next.
Yeah. All right. So going through and getting those sounds dialed in, that's like that first stage. And then later coming back and saying, all right, now I'm going to balance things. Mm-hmm. And now when you're describing the NS10 trick, we're talking about, this could be, for me, it's the Avant tone I've been using, although I've got my NS10s upstairs. I think this might inspire me to just Get the recone going,
Yeah.
get the amp out, and turn them down somewhere in the room just for that mid-range factor.
Yeah.
But that ability to make decisions around balances of instruments at that low volume where you can just hear relationships between relative volumes between things.
Yeah. And there's two things happening at high volume. One is your ears have built-in compressors.
Yeah.
So you're not getting a true, if you're listening.
That's my favorite compressor.
Yeah.
Actually.
It is always the best. It's the right speed. What is it, like 70 dB or maybe even as low as 60 when your ears start to squish the sound?
I'm not sure. I would think it's probably about above. I think it's the moment you start to get the Fletcher Munson and you get more bass and more treble because our ears are probably compressing the mid-range.
Right. That makes sense. Anyway, so I turn it down really low for balancing, and that just ensures that everything's kind of ballpark.
Yeah.
And then and that's on NS10s.
Yeah.
And then I'll do...
Which means that, but I think the balancing is literally just balancing, right? It's not readjusting a lot of EQ decisions, or it might be a little bit of that.
I will sometimes, do that. Sometimes I'll find that I'll make EQ changes when I get down quiet. I'm not listening super loud ever,
right?
Until people come over,
right? And then you got to crank it. You got to let people enjoy it.
Yeah, I'll make some EQ changes if it's necessary, and then you'll also have an idea about a creative thing and that you didn't think of earlier. So that's always kind of part of the process. But generally balancing them on NS10s, really quiet.
If you record music, podcasts, video, or dialogue, the brand new iZotope RX12 is one of the most powerful audio repair tools you can add to your studio. RX12 now features AI-powered scene rebalance, letting you separate dialogue, music, and sound effects for incredible control in post-production. The new Stems view makes stem editing faster and more visual than ever, while upgraded music rebalance and dialogue isolate deliver cleaner separations with improved machine learning. RX12 also adds trim silence, helping podcasters and editors instantly remove dead space and speed up long-form editing workflows. Plus, rebuilt de-bleed tools and real-time processing improvements make cleaning up noisy recordings easier than ever. From restoring damaged audio to fixing podcast interviews, guitar tracks, vocal tracks, and film dialogue, RX12 is the industry standard toolkit trusted by producers, podcasters, post-production engineers, and music makers worldwide. Go to iZotope.com and use the code ROCK10 for 10% off. You know, one thing I noticed in your playlist that was interesting, I don't even know what there is to say about it, but maybe there is, because there's a mix. You've got pop stuff. You've also got country, because we're in Nashville. Mm-hmm. You know, your dad's a great country producer.
Yeah.
And you've worked with people in that area. I felt like I was hearing a lot of drop key tunings in songs. Do you think that's a thing? And do you think there's a low tuning thing that can accompany songs that, you know, that are coming out of Nashville or that you worked with, or anything like that seems to, arrangement wise, make room for lower male vocals or whatever? That's in song arrangements?
I haven't thought about it that way.
You know, it's like the country music is where the baritone gets injured.
Yeah. Well, I think there's
that kind of stuff.
You know, Nashville is probably more guitar town than any other place. And so just, you know, drop tunings are not something that happens on any other instrument.
Right. And the piano,
and a lot of songwriters,
you just move down a little bit on the piano.
Yeah.
You have to drop tune it.
I know a lot of songwriters that run around with their guitars in E flat.
Right.
And I don't know why if that's just from a, you know, I'm going to go play around tonight and I'd rather, it's easier to sing half step, but I think a lot of songs are getting written half step down.
It could be that. It could be that maybe somebody originally was just like, it's easier to just start there and capo up for an E song.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then you can go down easily without having to retune, but I don't know.
I've got guitars that love being down in like open C and stuff, and so the instruments do sing.
And you're playing guitar as well as keyboards. Mm-hmm. Are you playing a little bit of everything these days?
Yeah, I mean, I'm mixing, and I'm working with people who are already baking great playing into the stuff that's coming to me. And so I play a little bit, but it's more of, something is really necessary and it's easier for me to do it than pick up the phone.
Yeah.
But it's more of a kind of a means to it.
I mean, picking up the phone's pretty easy. You just pick it up.
Yeah. Pick up the phone and wait.
Pick up the phone and call somebody.
Yeah.
Okay, so somebody who's in your playlist that caught my eye is Victor Krauss. You've worked with Victor Krauss a fair amount.
I love Victor,
over the years. Tell us about Victor. Who is Victor Krauss and what kind of stuff has been what are some fun, exciting moments for you or stories about making records that come to mind?
And I've been working with...
He's an interesting cat,
Victor.
really interesting.
Super interesting.
Very creative.
He's, he's a virtuoso that would, rather listen to AC/DC than anything else. And so he really carries these two opposing ideas in a really classy way. And it's, and he brings that, just kind of like knuckleheaded sophistication to the whole thing. He can play both sides of it really well. And I think what the first.
Well, I think the time that he came over was when I was recording Jack Silverman and he was producing. And he came over, and so I got to kind of get to know him a little better through that too. And I know he's been over more than that, but that was the one that really comes to mind. And even discovering, it's wait, you're into Frank Zappa? He likes the unusual stuff of rock and roll.
Yeah. And he's known as a bass player, but he's a really good guitar player, really good keyboard player. He gets great sounds. He's a good engineer because he knows he's got to use all this thing.
His sister is Allison Krauss.
His sister's Allison, and he's just a really worldly music maker, and he's fun to. I made a lot of records. I think a lot of my best work is with him, and I don't think that's a coincidence.
Have you worked with him in his new studio?
Yeah, a little bit, not too much.
He built a place it almost feels like a church inside.
It's really cool. Yeah, it's kind of.
I haven't been in. I've just seen pictures.
It's beautiful and it works well. It's not something that, when I've worked with him there, he was engineering and it was something I was producing and bringing to him because he's kind of got it dialed in for himself.
Yeah.
But he's such a good arranger, and mixing is really just kind of the next chapter of arranging, and Vic is such a good arranger that his stuff is really easy to mix. So I sound great on his records because they're so well arranged.
And what were you playing?
I was engineering. My sounds.
You were engineering.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah. Both of his solo records I recorded and mixed. I think some of the earliest work we did together was for that band, 8,1. He came in and played on one thing. That might have been the first thing we worked on together.
That's back to the 90s.
Oh, wait, no, that's not. There was a Dan Seals acoustic record that I was the assistant engineer on, and he was playing bass on. That might have been the first time we worked together.
And I think, Victor, it's time for you to come on the podcast so I can just ask you directly. But maybe it was worth talking to you about the way he did things, where I was learning he would take a DI and kind of fuzz it out a little through the amp on his upright bass. It might go through a B15, and it was like that combo of the growling bass amp and the mic on the upright bass.
On his solo records, I think it ended up being 5 tracks for his thing, and I would have a mic up on the bout of the bass and then another mic down by the F holes.
Right, and we're talking about upright acoustic, big acoustic double bass rockstars.
And then we would take the DI clean, and then the DI multed off through an amp. Some 4 tracks. Mm-hmm. You could take one mic on him and it would sound great. But we did like playing with mid-range, and the DI gives you a lot. DI through an amp gives you a lot of flexibility to fool around with.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. It's kind of like doing a direct bass, but then also sending it over to the Sans amp, or something where you can kind of dial in some of the mid-range fuzz and get a little. Yeah. You can really sculpt the growl and the focus of it a little bit. Which is a fun thing to do. Although you get into phase things you got to watch out for too, depending on what gear you do use and how you use it.
What I've found that works for me is, again, with the template thing in mixing is, a bass DI is going to be here in time, and I guess the timeline's going this way. The amp will be right behind it. And I've just started, you can enter negative delay compensation numbers in Pro Tools. So I'll just measure that distance in samples at some point in the song when I can get a clear look at the waveform. And
then just adjust
300
for the
samples
delay
behind.
compensation.
Then with delay compensation, I'll just enter a negative number in the amp side, so it kind of comes up to where the DI is.
Right.
And then that is part of the template. So when I pull bass in from other songs, as long as nobody's moved that mic, then that always applies.
Oh,
and that's
great.
a huge...
I've always thought about using we'd always use the track, or what's it called, the delay plugin, track adjust, or whatever it was called. I can't even think of it right now. But the one that lets you like dial in by samples delay.
Right.
But that only delays things, and what you're talking about
I have it in my head
you
that
can
the bass
pre-delay
player
it.
the DI is going to be what the bass player intended.
Yeah.
Because that's the fastest thing.
I think that's smart.
I always move the amp up a little bit.
Yeah, until you're like, this bass player needed delay back. And it's good. Okay, cool. There's another artist that you worked with that really caught my ear in your discography too. Hey, Steve.
Yes, that's Luke Dick.
Oh, that's Luke Dick is great stuff.
He's so good. And
Birthday Suit is a really standout pop track. Cool, punchy drums, like this great kind of acoustic guitar, sort of filtered out, cool sound, filtered vocals.
Yeah, that's the first song he and I wrote together. And I actually was introduced to Luke as a writer, not as an engineer.
Yeah, let's talk about writing.
Writing is something that I really enjoy doing that I've never been able to really move the needle with financially. And so, but I've done it. I've had some success with it, but not enough to, float the boat in compared to engineering. And so, I took it really seriously for a number of years, but engineering and mixing kind of kept growing. And at some point I couldn't ignore that. The smarter move was for me to stay between the speakers. And
right.
But in that process,
stay between the speakers,
I got to know Luke as a writer, and I'm so grateful for that relationship, and I'm grateful for the way that we got to know each other, because I don't now our relationship is, we're close friends, but in the studio, he's writing and producing, and I'm sometimes co-producing, but always kind of his right hand as an engineer. And I wish that more people, myself included, had more opportunities to meet people as writers, because there's so much emotional connectivity that happens when you're writing songs with people that is really hard to make happen in a studio when you're engineering a tracking session. It's just things are moving too fast and everybody's jobs are different. But a writing room is a really magical place regardless of the music. It's just for people who might be strangers coming together, and we're going to go tackle this emotion or this feeling and write a song about it and build something out of thin air. That's really a magic thing that you don't see much. And so I'm really lucky that was a part of my story. And it was something I wanted to be part of my story. I grew up engineering. I knew...
Let's talk about that. So what does that mean? Like, what is it like to be in a room writing with somebody? And you even said a writer's room.
Well...
So what does all that mean? Descriptively, like, what does it mean,
Yeah, well, it's a space that's not necessarily a studio. In my case, mine was, but there's instruments and ideas and people, and often one of those people is an artist. And
the recording of what you're doing might need to go through good mics, or it might just go into an iPhone?
Yeah, just, it might just be guitars and an idea. It might be somebody's got a track started in their computer, and you're going to write to that. And so it can happen all kinds of different ways. But
and what about the lyrics? Do you find yourself, like, where's the difficult zone for you, and do you lean into that more?
The difficult zone for me is this kind of hungry spark that is, it's a muscle, and if you don't exercise it, it will atrophy. And it's like, and some people, it's people who I would call natural writers who just can get up and do it, are constantly feeding that spark. And
you think of Daniel as somebody like that?
Totally.
Daniel Tashin?
Yeah. I mean, that guy just breathes creativity, and you know, and he's so good in that moment, you know, and good's not the right word. He's experienced and he's sensitive, and I think writers are generally emotionally available and often raw, you know, very connected people, and so that's a really fun place to be, and it's a great way to build relationship. And there's something bigger going on than, you know, we need more top end on this.
Do you see writers who you see writers who are like really quick with words, and others who are slower with words, but both still having strategies for like getting to a great end result?
Yeah, I feel like Nashville is a quick with words kind of town.
Yeah.
And the people who are slower with words usually have some sort of work they've done before they're actually in the room sharing the song with people.
Yeah.
And so, and I think that, again, it's like a muscle, and people are just, who do it a lot, get better at it, and get faster with it. And also, I guess if we're talking about genre, Nashville is a country music town. There's a vernacular, there's a way of talking.
Are you recording your own music or other people's music in your studio, but you're having trouble figuring out how to get your mixes to sound great? Do they sound weak and distant or lack punch and clarity? Well, I've got a gift for you to help you take your mixes from sounding like basement demos to sounding a lot more like professional mixes. And it's my free course called Mix Master Bundle. This course will show you how to get pro-sounding mixes from your home studio with free and stock plugins in Pro Tools. And the best part is, these mixing techniques will work for you in any DAW, whether you're in Logic, Cubase, PreSonus Studio One, Reaper, or anything you can think of. Are you ready to make your best record ever? Then go to mixmasterbundle.com to get started for free now, and you can find the clickable link in the show notes of this episode. But that's what I really like about the Hey Steve stuff. Like the track I Am Steve, it's like brilliant. It's like this, and I might be overlooking some part of what the message is, but it struck me as this really clever way to just say, it's like, hey, I'm just going to raise my hand. This is me. I'm doing a song, and I'm describing that I'm an everyman.
Yeah.
Living an everyman kind of life.
Yeah. The whole Hey Steve lyrical ethos is steeped in existentialism. That's kind of what all the songs are basically. What are we doing here? Why are we here?
Well, Birthday Suit was kind of about like getting naked or something. I don't know. That was my first takeaway. It was like, this is about getting down in your birthday suit
totally,
and like having a party.
Yeah, because why not?
But I mean, that's also just a great analogy for like, stripping back to our creative core, Who are we? What can we really say? I mean, even to that idea, there's this concept too of like the thing that we can offer that has the most value, if I can even get the words out, the most value to share is something that's like comes from us, that's true to us.
Yeah.
It might even involve this wonderful idea of like the wound is where the light enters, like almost like discovering like our most wounded part of ourselves and trying to, attach that with a string to what we're trying to create and do right now as a way to get it out there. So maybe the Birthday Suit is also a little bit about that concept. It's like get down just as naked as you can get, emotionally or idea wise. Because I mean, to the flip side of that, it's like, you've seen a lot of country productions and writing. I mean, you see great songs come forward, and you see, I'm guessing you've seen songs that like aren't so great, and then they sort of die on the vine. Do you ever see people...
I've seen songs that aren't so great come forward.
Come forward too? Have you seen like people, attempting to create stuff that really doesn't do any kind of personal reveal and then it just doesn't land? Or do you see stuff that lands that just doesn't have any personal reveal to it?
I don't think that's an answerable question, because I think it really just comes down to...
I like all the questions.
Yeah. Either it connects or it doesn't. And, and it's something that connects with me, may not connect with anybody else. So,
right. Yeah. Well, I feel like there's an element of songwriting too in Nashville, that kind of workaday songwriting, where you learn how to, and Packy, who I was just doing the interview, he was even talking about this, the idea of like learning how to write a story by making up a story, Yeah. So it's like, it's not really about you.
Right.
But it connects because if you get good at it, you pull elements that are connections for other people.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously in Nashville, if you're writing party songs,
right.
With like all the, Morgan Wallen hit or whatever, although I don't know if he's writing all those too, or who the writers are
on them, but there's a lot of people involved.
Yeah. And so
that's very committee-based creativity.
Yeah. And so like that would be an example maybe of like the elements that go together into the song are careful enough to know that they are connecting with the listener on a way that maybe feels kind of personal, or it leaves some room for...
Yeah. This is where I'm excited about AI.
Yeah.
Because I think, a small percentage of Nashville songwriters are writing hits, and a very large percentage of Nashville songwriters are chasing the hits that were out last week.
Right.
And AI can do that now. And
chasing?
Mm-hmm. So I'm interested to see like what that does to the population of chasing, and what it'll do to creativity, and the idea that I think there's going to be room to get weirder.
I'm excited about that idea.
Yeah.
I like the idea of the revolution music that happens. The doing the opposite. Somebody else was talking about that recently, that we may get into stuff where like the less perfect it sounds, it's almost like the new version of reality TV. It's like reality music.
Yeah. Yeah. You're already seeing that.
Yeah.
And there's some things that are really connecting for people. And I can't remember the artist's name, but some of these guys doing stadiums, and I listened to the record and I thought, this is not working for me.
Right.
And that's fine. It doesn't work for me. I don't think there's, people talk about things being good or bad in art, and it's hard for me to think about it that way.
Yeah. Well, and even in the career aspect of doing art and making music, you don't need to hit the stadiums to succeed with what you do. It's the same idea in the space of like creating an online business model. There's the idea that what you really need is 1,000 true fans, and then you can really succeed with what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, even in art or creativity or music, it's like, it's a cool concept that if you can create something that just really has 1,000 super fans, then you've got a career path out of it.
Yeah.
So don't get too hung up on what the superstar level of stuff is.
Yeah.
Unless you really want a $25 million mansion, and then you might have to go that route.
Well, and even then, you're it's not an easy life or an easy,
right.
That's not for everybody.
Okay, let's see. We're coming up on the end here. So let me ask you this question. So Silver Seas is one where you've been co-writing.
Yeah, it's mostly Daniel songs. But
mostly Daniel songs. All right, well then let me pick anything in terms of the co-writing, or something where you're feeling like you're contributing a lot. What do you write about? When you're sitting down to write, do you even have like a creative routine
depends
for yourself?
These days I'm only writing with artists that I'm producing.
Okay, so there's something that started there.
Yeah, so there's a real goal, and I noodle, and I have an iPhone full of me writing,
right?
But it's mostly like, I stumbled on a chord progression or a melody that I like, and I record it. And I might bring that to
less so lyrical ideas or
somewhat, yeah, but no, it's more musical.
Okay.
Or if I'm working with an artist and we've set up some time to write, they might come in with some ideas and we'll turn that into titles and then and narrow that down into, well, these out of 20 titles, these 5 seem like we could write songs like that, and then we'll start there. And then out of those 5, maybe 3 of them will be recorded. And
do you find yourself diving into the lyric content of those songs?
I like lyrics, especially because I spend so much time already playing with music.
Yeah.
If I'm playing on something.
This is this is exciting.
It's new territory. Yeah.
Uncharted new territory. All right, well, that's groovy because I love talking about that. So let's say you've got a title. What's a next question to answer in terms of that writing process? Is it like, okay, so what's the song about?
Yeah, it might be, it goes so many different ways. It might be, what's the story that leads to that title? Or Nashville loves the double entendre. So,
right.
Is the title this or is it that? Or how do we make it both?
Yeah.
How do you make it hearable both ways? And another kind of thematic thing in Nashville writing is that every line can point back to the title in some way,
right? Or
should. Some people,
like the verse is almost like creating a thing that's like, and here's the chorus.
Yeah, and country music, especially, I think of a lot like Baroque music, where there's a ton of rules about how melodies and harmonies change, and I remember being in school and we had to write our own like Bach style inventions. And if you followed the rules, you'd nail it. Be like, oh, that's it. That's Baroque music. And if you skipped a rule, you would hear it immediately. Oh, you did parallel fifths. That doesn't sound right. And country music is kind of that way. It's like if a phrase is a little off, you kind of tilt your ear a little bit. So I don't know. For me as a writer, I like developing lyrics with people.
Yeah.
And that's also, I think, where the kind of camaraderie piece of it comes in.
So, so let's say we've got this title we're starting with. We've got this, it's kind of about this. Here's the twist. Now, how do we fill out our verses and our choruses to arrive at those, at that destination? Do you find it useful to have a brainstorming process? It's like you're just jotting down as many different ideas, like forget how these go together, forget how these rhyme or what the phrasing is. Just these are all images or ideas.
Yeah. Usually everybody in the room is doing some version of that as they go, and people will kind of throw out lines or phrases.
Yeah. So do people sort of like disappear into their own notebooks for a sec?
Yeah.
And then it's like, hey, what do you think about this line or something?
Sure. Yeah. That happens a lot.
And then doesn't there sort of need to be still like a tiebreaker, a leader or somebody? And is that often the artist? Like
usually the artist, it can be. It depends. It's usually the best idea. It's not. People are usually if something right happens, everybody knows it and will acknowledge it, and you move on to the next challenge.
And when somebody's coming out of the notebook with an idea, is it like a whole verse worth of phrases, or is it just
it can be just a phrase? And sometimes a title, if it's sung right and lands in the right way and it feels great, that's enough, to jump off from. So it doesn't have to. The logical sense doesn't have to play into it all that much. I mean, kind of does, but if something feels great to sing and listen to, then that can be plenty.
Right. It worked for Radiohead.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
worked for Nirvana. But those are not writing within a strict format like a country or a Baroque either. What about tools that are useful in that process? What tools do people tend to have around through that?
Somebody's usually always got like Rhyme Zone or Rhyme Brain website.
Yeah.
Up.
For quick rhyme.
Yeah, I think
ideas.
I haven't gotten into it much yet, but I think ChatGPT is a popular writing tool just because it'll throw a bunch of stuff at you that you can then go and use it. But man, I mean, my favorite writers they're just good at it.
Yeah.
I think there are people who are naturally good at it, and then they work real hard.
Yeah. But, there's also those of us who aren't yet, and we got to get there.
Yeah.
So it's like super helpful to hear all these descriptions of stuff, too.
But the best songwriters, it's like baseball. If you can hit 3 out of 10 pitches, you're going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So songwriting, I think, is even lower averages than that.
Yeah.
There's so many great writers have so many uncut songs.
Yeah. So be willing to just go, just do a lot.
It's a grind, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess to that point too, it's one of the reasons why people need to get together or get along well in those moments, because that might be that's mostly what you get.
Yeah.
Is that time spent together, that hanging out there. Are you having fun?
Yeah.
It might be a hit, might be terrible, but are you enjoying it, And can you get through to the finish line for today?
Yeah. Well, and being a hit requires a song's not a hit until
it is.
Until it's a hit. And there's so much that goes into the day the song was written and the day it's a hit.
Yeah,
and so many
hands.
things out of our control have to happen.
Very cool, man. Well, let me go to this question. This is the one I've asked you before, but it's been a minute. This is the hypothetical question. We get to take the Wayback Studio machine. You get to go back in time and find young Jason and say, hey, listen, dude, you're in the studio, and you're interested, but I want to give you this one bit of advice. Here's the single most important thing that you need to know to be a rock star of the studio, yourself one day. What advice would you want to go back and give yourself? And, you described that like it wasn't until you were about 12 that you really got interested in the studio. Mm-hmm. Before that, it was just like, it's a cool place, A lot of jet skis.
For me, the studio was a place that I liked being, but when I was 12 or 13, when I got a sequencer and a 4-track cassette recorder, is when I went from being this was a cool place to hang out in to this is a cool thing to do.
Right.
And man, I wish I had a good answer for this. Just keep doing it.
Yeah.
I was incredibly lucky to have mentors all around me who were having fun. As much as my dad taught me about the technical aspects of making music, the best thing he taught me was that you should be having a really good time at your job. It's like work is supposed to be fun and rewarding outside of whatever financial basis there is for it. Work can be fun, and that has stuck with me. And
yeah, that's great.
I wasn't able to put it in those words, at 12, but that's what was attractive about it, and that's why other hobbies or other jobs I could have gotten into if music hadn't been there. It was really about doing something that is fun to do, and it's rewarding. It's such a rewarding gig because you're making something out of nothing. And
I've had a lot of fun with people in the studio.
Yeah,
over the years, I have a lot of fun doing interviews on the podcast.
Yeah,
just hanging out with people and talking.
You've got to be collecting a tremendous amount of information, right? Because you're hearing.
Yes, my head's exploding.
Yeah,
it's actually held together. Oh no, I can't lie about it. They can see the back of my head. I was going to say it's held together with tape. Yeah, that's why I feel so. Like I'm at a stage now where I just feel so driven to just want to make music because I'm like, I've just accumulated. It's like, it's time to just take the knowledge and go.
That's
just
awesome.
Have fun,
That's really exciting.
Otherwise, I don't want to spend my whole life just acquiring knowledge and then just, go to the long sleep with just a bunch of knowledge.
I don't know. It seems all right.
It's groovy too. It's fun too. I just, I do have that urge to just be creating. I'm ready to lean into the stuff that is not my comfort zone, like writing lyrics, like getting up and singing a song that brings a tear to somebody's eye. I do not know how to do that yet.
Yeah, I tried for a little while, and it just every sign in my life kept pushing me back into the studio.
Yeah, well, you're great at it, man.
I don't know about that, but I know I like it, and I'm lucky to have good people that I get to work with.
Yeah. Groovy. Well, thank you again for hanging with us on the show, man.
Thanks for having me.
I'm glad we finally got to do this on video.
It's cool.
Where can the Rockstars go connect with you, find out more about you, go listen to your music, reach out because they desperately need an amazing sounding mix of their album?
Yeah,
whatever.
I'm available for all things. And just my website, jasonlehning.com. There's links there and info there.
Okay, Lehning.
Yep.
And we'll have links in the show notes, Rockstars. You can, including playlists, so you can go listen to Jason's work and click through. And if you enjoyed this, please hit that like button and hit subscribe. And in fact, if you're listening to this and you're like, what like button? Come on over to video, man. We're on YouTube now as well. And so you can see what we're all doing. You can see our smiling faces, or you just keep listening in the car. And thanks for doing the interview with us.
Thanks for having me. It's really fun.
It's great to see you.
You too.
All right, man. Awesome. See you around the studio. Cheers.
Thanks.
Thanks so much for listening to Recording Studio Rockstars. If you enjoyed the show and want to help make it better, then please share this episode with your friends on social media and leave a rating and review on iTunes to help the podcast reach more rock stars like yourself. You can click directly over to iTunes or go to rsrockstars.com/review for an easy explanation. And remember to hit the subscribe button to keep up with weekly episodes. And if you're ready to make your best record ever now, then head over to Recording Studio Rockstars Academy, where you can start with my free course at mixmasterbundle.com. Thanks so much for listening, and thanks for being a rock star. I'm Lid Shaw, and this is Recording Studio Rockstars. Now, go make great music. Recording Studio Rockstars would like to give a big thank you to our fantastic sponsors who make this episode possible. Isotope, Native Instruments, SAE Institute, Spectra 1964, Grace Design, and Picker. Check out the Spectra 1964 website for factory direct budget-saving prices on the STX 600, 100, 100D, and BBDI DirectBox. Check out my studio profile on the Picker app on iPhone or Android, and remember to take advantage of our special coupon code ROCK10 for 10% off any plugin purchase at isotope.com or nativeinstruments.com. And don't forget, you can start mixing right now with my free course at mixmasterbundle.com. If you enjoyed Recording Studio Rockstars, please check out our sponsors using the links in the show notes below. These are all things I highly recommend for your studio. They're going to help you make your best record ever. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, because it's a great way to help support this show. And I'd also like to thank our fantastic team here at Recording Studio Rockstars, Vlad Weselchenko and Daria Tupesis. Thanks so much for watching and listening, and we'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.